I'm Joe. This is probably just beaten to death topic, but I have to just talk to you, Taylor, and everyone out there about safe spaces. Do you know what a safe space is, Taylor?
No. What is that?
A safe space is a setting on a college campus where you can basically be free from the oppression of cisgendered white males and everyone else that gets in your way of basically your dignity of being a self-identifying bi, lesbian, dance theory, whatever have you.
Is that where you go to get sprayed in the face with mace?
That's Berkeley. That's where you get sprayed in the face with mace. But the problem in general with safe spaces are, first of all, you're going to college where the environment of college itself is already like a safe space. It's already like, it's fake. It's away from mommy and daddy, but it actually kind of like is a safe space because you're paying for student housing there, or you're getting your bills supplemented from your mom and dad while you're going to school. Your only job there is to study and to not really work and to sit there and complain all day about how horrible your life is and how unfair and how hard it is to sit around all day smoking, drinking, and having fun. Okay, first of all, nobody feels bad for you because college is just a wonderful time. It is a time for having fun, partying, hanging out with your friends, being away from your parents, and all that. So the fact that you're complaining and whining about being in a place that essentially is paid for and you get food and room and board and your only job is to basically read and regurgitate that material, it's really stupid. And the wages and the money that it costs, the tuition fees and everything else. First of all, you're whining about safe spaces and you're whining about having a fair institute to be away from all the problems that you're facing. The college cost for tuition is up to like $30,000 a year now. So you are not a victim. You are not a victim if somebody is paying for you $30,000 a year to go to college. You are not a victim. You know who the person that is a victim is? A person that can't afford to go to college and has to go work and support their family. That's the victim. You can't have it both ways. You can't complain about how hard your life is while getting everything paid for and while sitting in a safe group of your own peers who think like you, talking about how unfair everything else is. You don't even know what fair is. You haven't been out in the real world yet. This is why it's so great that when I went to college, I actually worked and actually had a real job and was out there so I could see what's going on to see how fair everything really was. So the fact that you need a safe space in a safe space is ridiculous. You're going to find out in the real world, you're not going to get your way. You're not going to be able to whine and kick and scream and protest and get your way. It only works on your campuses. It only works then. It doesn't work anywhere else. Because if you've noticed this, you've been whining and crying and screaming and kicking and yelling, and Trump is still there. He's still in office. He's still gallivanting around in the private jet and going to all around the world saying he's the president. The kicking, whining, crying, and screaming didn't do anything. Didn't change anything. You whined and cried and kicked and screamed about healthcare. Cost is still up there. Whining, kicking, screaming, and crying doesn't do anything. It's never done anything. No matter how much you want to pretend it's done something, it hasn't. You know what does something? Going to school, getting an education and degree in something that can actually positively change society, going into that field, making a difference with your peers and the people that you're working with, and bringing up people that'll, like if you work as a counselor and you work as a teacher, helping the next generation of students and peers and everyone around you, that does make a difference. You're going to find out real quick that no one cares about the safe spaces, especially if you're not producing anything, especially if you're not helping anyone, especially if you're not doing anything. If you're whining, crying, kicking, and screaming, you're going to be that guy or that whatever you want to be this week. And you're going to be kicked out so fast, you're not going to even understand what happened to you. Really, seriously. You think it's going to be different? Ask everyone who graduated before you, ask them how having that attitude helped them. Ask them how it helped them progress up the corporate ladder. Ask them how much it helped them get things done. It doesn't. So this new trend we have going on right now of babying our college kids, isn't this the exact same thing when we talk about spoiling people that are rich, that are sheltered? Isn't that the same thing? Affluenza. You're spoiling somebody to the point where they don't know right from wrong. We're essentially doing that with our college systems. Safe spaces are a joke. They will not work. Treating and babying people has never worked. And spoiling people has never worked. It's spoiling people under a different name. The same thing. I know we don't want our kids to go through stuff because we think it'll hurt them. Because we think we don't want that things to happen to our precious baby. But guess what? You learn from things that are different from you. You learn from things that hurt you. You learn from things that affect you to the point where it hurts you so much you have to change and it makes you stronger. Safe spaces are a new trend. They're not going to help anyone, and things are going to get worse and worse. When I was going through this, when I was in high school and college, it was the same. I heard these same arguments. And you know who was whining about safe spaces and about how unfair things were? People that had more money and more privilege and everything than I did. I grew up poor with nothing, and everyone that was complaining were middle class, upper middle class kids that had their cars paid for, their college paid for, and their food paid for, and everything by mommy and daddy while I was getting government assistance. So don't tell me about how unfair things are. I know how unfair they really are. Not how unfair you're making it up in your head. When you're making up these problems in your head, you don't have any real problems. I had real problems. So that's why it sucked. That's why it was horrible. That's why I had to go do these things. That's why I had to go mooch off my friends because I had nothing to eat. So don't complain about your situation and how horrible things are when you're going to an institution and a college that I couldn't even afford, Taylor couldn't even afford, and people we know couldn't even go get into because we couldn't even pay the bills. I had the education, the grades to get in these schools. I couldn't do it. So don't whine and cry that you're there and getting things paid for and how unfair things are.